Welcome, dear listeners, to Satanists Nextdoor. We're your hosts, Lilin
And Tommy Levine.
Whether you're an open-minded, curious onlooker or a fellow Satanist seeking camaraderie, our goal is to share our personal experiences and delve into the intricate tapestry of Satanism in our daily lives, occasionally inviting other guests to share their unique perspectives, leaving no pentagram unturned. We'll explore how our beliefs shape our views on society, dive into struggles and triumphs we've encountered, and reveal the humanity that unites us all. So grab your favorite chalice and join us on this captivating journey. Satanists Nextdoor is ready to peel back the curtain and offer you a glimpse into our world, one captivating episode at a time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Satanists Nextdoor. Today that we're recording this is Blasphemy Day, September 30th. And so we are going to talk about and celebrate blasphemy. Yay!
God damn it.
Jesus Christ, what are these people doing?
Yes.
I don't even think a lot of people realize this is an actual holiday.
No, and those that do may not even know about the origins, but to just kick us off like I love to do, the blasphemy is important because the right to freedom of religion and belief doesn't include the right to have a religion or a belief that's free from criticism or ridicule. That was part of the special report on freedom of religion or on belief. There's an entire organization, many organizations that monitor blasphemy and laws that affect religious freedom throughout the world. And the fact is that they stand for the right for all religions to be criticized and to be protected. So there's equal measure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could kind of take it back to its inception, the first celebration of Blasphemy Day was
it's fascinating.
2009 was actually the first celebration of it. Mm-hmm. But, it came to be by events before that.
Mm-hmm. International Blasphemy Day.
Yeah, and it was linked to the September 30th, the anniversary of the 2005 publication of the satirical drawings of Muhammad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Danish newspaper. I'm going to ruin the name, so I apologize to the Danish people who may or may not be listening. Jyllands-Posten. They had put 12 editorial cartoons of Muhammad, who is the founder of Islam.
And people lost their shit.
They did. The prominent Danish Muslim groups began to essentially freak out about it. They wanted to censor the entire thing, and they were just really irate over the fact that these individuals put these cartoons out there because depictions, period, are not allowed. And again, this is really important for all of you out there. Your religious beliefs are your problem. If, as a Muslim, you don't want to see these things, then don't do these things and avoid it. But understand, people of other faiths do have a right to have thoughts, feelings, and ideas about your religion.
Yeah, I mean, I can draw a stick figure and put the name Muhammad above it, and it doesn't mean anything or do anything to me.
Right. Now, I respect, their beliefs. They have a right to them and to be respected and to have the same freedoms as anyone else, and just as I have the right to feel what I feel about Christians, religions, all sorts of religions out there. So
yeah, I mean, so this sort of that event, which actually there was death.
Yeah,
there was
over 100 people were killed.
Yeah, there's over 100 people died because of a fucking cartoon.
A few cartoons. Yeah.
Okay, a few cartoons, but still, I mean, think about the stupidity of that. Hundreds of people died because of a cartoon.
Yeah.
I mean, just let that sink in a little bit.
So, the real importance of International Blasphemy Day is the right to free speech and the right to free thought and the ability to express ourselves, even if it's things that may be offensive to others. And that's so important to Satanists, especially Satanists who are aligned with organizations like the Satanic Temple, because among the tenets of the Satanic Temple is the right to offend.
Yep. And I think that went perfect. And I'm probably going to butcher this last name here.
Oh, no.
One of the founders, Justin Trottier, I believe, from Toronto, he was coordinator of Blasphemous Day. His quote to me just screamed Tenet 4. We're not seeking to offend, but if in the course of dialogue and debate people become offended, that's not an issue for us. There is no human right not to be offended.
Exactly. Beautifully said.
So, I know some people kind of go a little bit out of their way on Blasphemous Day to be blasphemous.
Well, I mean, it is Blasphemy Day, so...
Yeah, and so I kind of look at it as I'm just me every day, and so every day of my existence is blasphemous in some way, shape, or form.
It's a good day to discuss free speech and the importance of our First Amendment rights, including freedom of religion, which falls under that. The same thing, freedom of and freedom from religion. And the insidious nature of current environmental trends within many communities to take away those freedoms or to manipulate those freedoms biasly towards their specific beliefs or ideologies.
Texas. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, gosh. You got that cold,
had something,
too. Okay.
Yeah. Had that Dominionist cult there going around.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
But I was surprised when I looked at the list of countries. That one, I was surprised about the amount of countries that still have some sort of blasphemous laws on the book, and then the list of some of them. I mean, some of them, were just duh. Of course, there's like Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, things like that. Everybody kind of, with two brain cells bouncing around knows that. But, when you look at things like Germany or Canada was even on there. Now, I don't know if Canada, I've seen some conflicting articles as I started to look through the list and kind of dig down. And it looks like Canada has gotten rid of their blasphemy law. But then, shockingly, on the other side, Denmark and Sweden were adding anti-blasphemy laws. I was like, whoa, what the fuck?
I'm not as versed in some of the international issues as I would like to be to speak about it, but I do know that a lot of those countries have had an influx of other religious beliefs, specifically of the Muslim faith, where they've added things because there have been extreme pushes in some regards. Now, unfortunately, when you try to overcorrect like that, it tends to create dangerous situations for people.
Yeah. I was even reading an article, and it was written by a Muslim in one of those countries. I think he was in Denmark, and he was saying how he did not see this as a good thing because, and he started quoting in the Quran where you're supposed to use patience when it comes to blasphemy, not like imprison people or kill people or fine them or anything like that. It was only, I think, somewhere in the, medieval centuries where like all religions sort of went fucking ape shit, nuts and burning people and killing people and shit like that. But, and his take was if somebody is blasphemous towards a certain religion and you punish them for that, are they more likely to convert and be more friendly towards that religion, or are they more likely to hate it even more? And he was like, it's really the latter. So you're not actually helping anything by putting these laws into place. And I actually agree with him on that one.
I agree with that. And I think when you look at the difference between people who have a faith and a belief and people who are extreme in their faith and belief and use it more as a battering ram than, a carrot, they tend to overdo it in those ways. And when you listen to people like that who are Muslim and are out there explaining these things and how it, in their interpretation, should be really approached, you really clearly see the difference. It happens a lot with Christianity. And then you look at countries like Pakistan, where they have a very large Muslim community as well. 17 people were actually put to death over blasphemy.
Yeah, no, I know. There's countries where people are killed for, if I went and visited some of these countries and I dressed the way that I dress every single day here, I would be killed. I'd be executed. And again, that's just beyond fucked up. My fear is, will America, what's going to happen in America? And then that's a whole nother subject. I think anybody who has a pulse and, stays connected to the news or social media in any sort of way knows all the stuff going on here and the direction that some people are trying to bring America. But I would almost say, okay, well, if these other religions are going to whine and cry and bitch about blasphemy, well, technically, does that mean that as Satanists, every Sunday we're being, blasphemized in church because they're always saying Satan this, Satan that, Satan this, blah, 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 and it's the same sort of shit. We're not out there whining and crying and bitching and moaning about it. Yeah. Maybe we should. I don't know.
But no, because again, that's one of those censorship things, right? People have, again, we have the tenet that says offense is something that is, you can do with that. That's something that, again, I'm not going to absolutism the interpretation, right? Because we've all talked about it, and that's probably another discussion where some people want to rigidly define the tenets.
Yes.
And what they do and do not mean. And I do have an issue with that. It's not to say that there are things that I will not support being mentioned and brought out by the tenets, but for the most part, Satanism is a very specific to yourself, individualistic belief system, and so those interpretations being so varied reflects the very different points of view of so many of the people in our community.
Yeah, and just for people that don't know me, I was being a sarcastic asshole when I said that Satanists should whine and cry and bitch and moan about it, because we really don't give a shit. No,
not really.
That's the whole point of kind of being a Satanist is,
well, yeah.
I don't really care what some other religious person thinks about me or my religion, as long as they're not trying to take rights away from me. That's when I get sort of pissed off and I'm going to say or do something about it.
Oh, yeah. And the reason why free speech is so important, aside from the religious aspect, because it doesn't stop there. When you look at things that happened, there was recently, and it was the first case, I think, ever, a man in Saudi Arabia received the death penalty for posting online on Twitter, of all things. And it was anti-government conversation, and this individual was sentenced to death for speaking out against their government.
Yeah. Again, I mean, there's... And, is that blasphemy, or does that fall under anti-government? I don't know exactly what he posted. So,
well, it really depends on your point of view, right? Because blasphemy, yes, is against religion or faith, but it's also against what other people hold ideologically as sacred or important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there was another quote from, the initial celebration of Blasphemy Day by the president and CEO. And again, I think I'll get this name right. Ronald A. Lindsay stated that, we think religious beliefs should be subject to examination and criticism just as political beliefs are, but we have a taboo on religion. Again, I agree with him wholeheartedly. We should be able to discuss these things. We should be able to disagree on them, just as we do in politics. But for some reason, if you disagree with religion in certain countries, you can get anywhere from a fine to jail time to death.
Yeah. And that means to be able to criticize your own beliefs as well. I know recently we did a book club, and one of the other congregants from our particular congregation, Jenny, we got into a conversation about the knee-jerk reaction we sometimes have to overcorrect on our own religious beliefs, and the criticism that we can sometimes push back on when we hear it instead of listening. And so it's important that, as Satanists, we also don't fall into that absolutist mindset where you can't be critical of your beliefs.
Yeah. I'm completely open to being critical of my beliefs if somebody can show me something or give some sort of proof or, anything like that. I'm totally open, and my beliefs, even as a Satanist, have evolved over the decades, as what I thought was acceptable to what I now don't think is acceptable has changed. And I firmly believe that's the way religion should work. You should always be growing. You should be, trying to better yourself in whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're involved in. But you definitely shouldn't be looking for the execution of people who disagree with you, or have a different faith.
Even, like I said, in your own faith, to be able to criticize or to think about critical feedback and to understand where it's coming from and how to maybe even recognize where there are failings, where there are things that can be explained or where you can grow in certain areas. So, but it's important, blasphemy laws are kind of a bellwether, right? The way people see blasphemy in a community can really tell you a lot about the health of a community and the way that they treat people. When you look at things like in May 2022, a mob in Nigeria killed a college student after a WhatsApp message she sent was deemed blasphemous. So this individual was killed because of a WhatsApp message. When you look at things like 2023, just past January, a college of a Christian woman working with Pakistan's Civil Aviation Authority threatened to accuse her of blasphemy following a workplace dispute. I mean, these kind of things are kind of bizarre. June 2022, Stephen Masai was released from prison in Pakistan following his arrest and detention in 2019 for blasphemy. There's always different people were released, people are convicted. But, they went to jail for having thoughts, for having feelings about something other people were uncomfortable about. And that's where, you have to be careful because the laws encourage individuals to essentially seek retaliation and retribution against those that they deem to have offended them and their beliefs. And you have to think about the implications of that if it were to become commonplace. I mean, even a very simple statement of, you bang your toe and you shout, "God damn it," could you be brought up on charges?
Right. I mean, that's why I do get so somewhat worked up on what's happening in America or the United States, because America actually is, much larger than just the United States, but the United States, the country of the United States, and the direction that it's going, or people are trying to push it towards theocracy. And I kind of always go back and say, I know you believe somewhere that this will be like paradise or something, but go look at these other countries and then ask yourself, is that really the way you want the United States to be run?
Right.
Do we want religious police?
Yeah. Not really.
No.
I mean, and just to spread it out so that it doesn't seem like it's not something common in many different beliefs. In 2023, this past May, Sri Lankan authorities actually ended up arresting a stand-up comedian, and I'm probably going to screw this one up, Gianni Natasha Erdosuriya. They were doing a comedy show, and apparently they defamed Buddhism in the show while they were, joking around about different things, and they were...
I read about this.
They were arrested for their comedy show.
Yeah.
Imagine, think about the United States, just the kind of jokes and comedy shows that we have, just normal conversational stuff that we do in jest routinely, and that kind of environment that would create.
Yeah. And technically, there's still states in the United States that have...
In theory.
They still technically have some blasphemy laws
on the books. Yeah.
They're not really... they're not really used or anything like that. But if you think about it, look what happened with Dobbs.
We didn't
Texas
think that.
And a whole bunch of states had laws, quote, on the books,
right,
that couldn't be enforced until Dobbs went in. And then the second that went in, those laws went into effect. And so to even have them on the books is dangerous because if something happens, those are already there. They shouldn't even be on the books. I don't understand. It's like we're in 2023. Is there no politician in any of these states that's brave enough to say, hey, this is kind of stupid to still have this stuff on our books. Why don't we just remove this?
I think we could do an overhaul on a lot of different laws, to be honest with you. There's some very ridiculous things, especially as it pertains to your freedom of thought, your freedom of speech, things that are obviously overridden by our First Amendment, right? But we've seen where in other instances, people's lives have been affected by these very seemingly mundane state laws that are in contradiction with the greater federal laws, but can be upheld because of the way that we wanted states to remain in their own right, sovereign and somewhat independent with their ability to dictate laws for their own communities. I just feel that at this point in time, especially as it pertains to people's private consensual, appropriate sexual behavior or the things that they say, if you're not threatening people's lives, if you're not planning harm and outwardly just admitting those things, you have a right to feel how you feel.
Yeah, hold on, I need to find it here because I was kind of quoting this guy earlier, but he said something in here which I thought was really kind of ironic when we look at what is going on in the United States now with books and banning books and stuff like that, and having these big bonfire book parties.
Yep. Again, the free thought
burning parties.
Yep.
Now, of course, they were talking about the Quran and other religious books, but he in general, he's sort of talking about books in general. He says, if anybody had a real argument against that scripture or any book, he could put it into words. Burning books instead of criticizing them is what barbarians do. So, that statement right there, again, from, a very devout Muslim that was just on the other side of these laws that were going into effect in Sweden and Denmark, but I look at that and that same statement can apply here in the United States with what is happening with books. Why are we burning books? Why are we banning books? Instead, have a conversation about them or put out your own book, that contradicts it or something like that. But it's been so politicized and we're in this environment now that's sort of like this tinderbox that everybody wants to outdo the other person, and I don't know.
Well, you criticize, we criticize certain aspects of Christianity that are used to support horrific things. And much like that, most religious books, text have aspects of them that could be interpreted that way. And that's the tricky thing about religions, right? Because interpretation,
yes,
it leaves things so open. So the interesting thing, and I'm not an expert in the Quran, I've read the Quran, to the best of my ability, but there are aspects of it which do not, they call for people not to themselves punish blasphemers, that should be left up to Allah to do the ultimate punishment for those who make those choices. And I think it's important that if those are your beliefs, that you critically understand that if there is some kind of ultimate judgment, if these things truly are what you hold of a value, then maybe it's important to understand that your part is not to take that judgment into your own hands.
Well, yeah, Christianity says the same thing. They're not supposed to be judging. That's supposedly supposed to be quote unquote God's thing, and you're not supposed to do that. But yet, every single day, every single second of every single day, you go on social media or something like that, and there's a bunch of Christians criticizing other people. You go to Sunday morning church, and they're criticizing and judging other people, and it's like, okay, where did this get lost in translation? I don't know. It seems pretty straightforward to me, right kind of here in your own book, Yeah.
And the onus is on all of us to ensure that we're living up to the best of what we truly hold a value to. Like, as a Satanist, I've often said it's not my job to tell you how to live your beliefs. If you are a Satanist and you're doing all the things, that you feel embody your belief system, and always, like, my biggest thing, if you're not harming others, if you're following the laws of consent, if you're living in a way that doesn't cause any issue to other people physically, danger, then it's not my business.
Yeah.
It's not my business to tell you how to live. And that's my biggest issue with certain other belief systems, many other belief systems, is some of the people take it to such an extreme that they want to impose their interpretation of their solid foundation of life's lessons onto everyone's life. And you can't do that.
Yeah. And again, like I said, as a Satanist, I am kind of a walking blasphemy against Christianity and many other religions. But, we even have the Black Mass, which, I mean, that is like the total mockery, and its whole purpose is for blasphemy. And I remember when we did our Black Mass, there was, I mean, they had to have the police in the median so that we wouldn't have angry Christians coming in trying to harm us or the spectators, because it was a public ritual.
Right.
Semi-public. It was like private. People were able to
invitation.
It was invitation. And we did a Black Mass, and it was, a really fun ritual, because the whole point of it is blasphemy. But the lies that came out of it was crazy. Gosh. I mean, so we supposedly we drove to Lubbock and broke into a church and took their
consecrated
Jesus wafers.
Yeah. Their Jesus.
Yeah, their Jesus. It was like, where the hell do y'all come up with this shit?
Or we were sneaking people in to get communion to steal the host in our mouths. Like, they're checking people. Open your mouth. Did you eat it?
Yeah.
It was just bizarre. So yeah, there's a few very devout Catholic militant groups in our area. And when they got wind that we were doing this Black Mass ritual, it went out like all over. There was emergency bulletin reports. Oh my gosh, they're having a Black Mass. They're going to do it at 3 a.m. That's when these things are typically done, in line with what the fuck kind of what?
Well, if you would have come at 3 a.m, nobody would have been there. So.
Yeah, no, but it was wild. So they had rows of people praying. They had giant crucifixes and crosses. They had banners.
They killed the grass.
They did kill the grass.
They put salt down on the grass, which, if anything, you put a bunch of salt on grass, it kills the grass. So,
word to Catholics, I like salt. Salt is tasty. Yeah. I enjoy eating and using salt.
Salt doesn't do a damn thing to me other than flavor my food. So, I guess I would be a saltaholic. So, the more salt, the better. Just throw it at me. I'll open my mouth and fucking catch all the salt.
Yeah. But that's just for y'all to know. Salt doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Salt doesn't, there's no spiritual warfare going on. I'll walk right across your little salt boundary, and nothing about my personality or me or anything like that's going to change.
As a matter of fact, I take salt baths sometimes to relax. Epsom salt is quite lovely.
Yeah. The nice salt bath. Our demons are in the background screaming. I don't know where they come up with this shit. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And supposedly we were going to sacrifice a baby. I mean, they go all out on this sort of stuff. I actually want to do, I so want to do another Black Mass. I mean, we need to do another Black Mass. We totally have to do another Black Mass.
It takes planning.
Yeah, I know. It takes planning, and we got to find a
especially since we have to get security.
Yeah.
Thanks. Again, blasphemy, right? These, individuals cannot tolerate anything that is contradictory to their deeply held beliefs, while stomping all over our deeply held beliefs.
Yeah, but just to set the record straight, nobody drove from Houston all the way up to Lubbock. If you know Texas, that's like a 12-hour drive there and a 12-hour drive back in order to steal Jesus from a church. And why would we go to Houston when there's a church on every single corner in Houston? So you can buy them off of Amazon.
Exactly. I was about to say we don't steal consecrated wafers from churches, or we value and we want you to have your beliefs. We're not there trying to upset your ritualistic practices, and so we're not over there stealing your Jesus. We order them, and they're not consecrated because we don't care whether or not they're consecrated. It's symbolic, just like the fact that you had some priests wave their hands. We're ministers too, so we can wave our hands over the Jesus and unconsecrate them.
Do they become Satanists?
Satanists?
Or
no, because we don't eat ourselves in deific satisfaction.
Well, I don't know.
I said ourselves. I mean,
okay. I don't know. I heard a rumor if you surgically remove a couple of ribs, you can kind of do some stuff with yourself.
Way.
Okay. No, sorry. Yeah, the wind went a little bit off there.
Yeah.
But it is Blasphemy Day, so hey, I'm gonna go all fucking out on it. So yeah, definitely need to do another Black Mass. Totally need to do another Black Mass.
So I encourage everyone, if you love free speech, if you enjoy the right to free thought, if you love the fact that there are books out there that even piss you off, and ones that you love that piss other people off, this is when you have to stand up and say, I'm drawing the line that free speech is for everyone, and whether or not I'm pissed off at your beliefs or you're pissed off at mine doesn't matter. We each have the right to our own personal belief system, as long as we're not infringing on one another's rights in the process.
Yeah. And for all you social media Elon Musk freaks and all of that go down the free speech sort of thing.
That's not free speech, dude.
Yeah. So buying a social media platform so you can remove one set of things that people are saying and put more weight on the algorithm to other ones, and then argue free speech on it, or isn't really. Or also, free speech doesn't mean you can say whatever the hell you want and have no consequences.
Right. And not everything is legally actionable. Just because someone says certain upsetting, offensive things doesn't mean that you can do anything about it. But it does mean that you could lose your job. It does mean that it could affect your relationships. It absolutely means that people could, decide not to associate with you anymore. There are consequences for the stupid things many people feel compelled to say.
Yeah. I mean, if you go around and, make certain threats or stuff like that, there definitely could be consequences. And even if there's not legal consequences, like you said, if you do something that is pretty outlandish, or let's say you just take, really bigoted sort of stances publicly, and yet you're also somewhat of a public face of a company, odds are you're probably going to get fired. And that's not taking away your free speech. You were able to say that without being put in jail or killed or anything like that. You got fired because you broke your contract or some, sort of moral clause that the company has or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and I do definitely think if you threaten people's lives, if you deny people the right to live or exist, if you decide to call them out in a nasty, bigoted, racist manner, then there should be consequences. You should have to live with the weight of your words. And I will fully defend that. Do I think those people should necessarily end up in jail? No, unless it graduates to calling for people to be harmed.
Yes.
Then I do think people should be held accountable for that, because certain individuals who I will not name have a very loud platform and continually say things that put people's lives at risk. And it's not just one person, but there are definitely prominent figures out there who repeatedly take this right and abuse it to the fullest extent, and people have been harmed because of it. And those individuals, I think there should be some type of punishment or repercussion that is out there.
Yeah, I mean, we have these countries focusing, their laws and shit on, oh my gosh, you drew a picture of something, or you burned a book. Oh no, you're gonna get, in all this trouble or be killed or something like that. But yet you can make violent threats towards other people, and that's just totally okay.
Yeah. I mean, anti-Semitism has always been an issue. Historically, there's been problems that are centered around being anti-Semitic, and yet I cannot recall personally in all of my years the need to put out things like commercials to bring awareness to the fact that there's such a level of anti-Semitism now that it's just at impossible levels for people. There are real dangers happening routinely.
Yeah. It's definitely escalated. And that's what I mean when I say the environment in the United States concerns me in the way that it's moving, because we have these religious radicals that have infiltrated all sorts of government positions, and they're either trying to put in laws or they are successfully slowly putting in laws. And where will it stop? When will be enough for the American people? I don't know. And that's the part that concerns me, because 20 years ago, I would have never thought half of this shit would have made it as far as it did. But somehow, some way, we've, we have a large portion of our society here that has gone like wackadoodle fucking crazy conspiracy theory shit, all sorts of stuff. It all sort of weaves and ties together with religion and, I don't know,
Yeah.
So.
But that's just the important thing. So on this Blasphemy Day, we felt it was important to highlight what brought Blasphemy Day into existence and why it's so important to talk about, and the freedoms that are very much at risk, not only for us as Satanists or for us as atheists or for just people who are religious but don't feel that it's right to tell others how to feel, think, or live. These things are very much at risk for all of us. I mean, do I as a parent think that there should be certain things put in place to protect people from abusive behaviors and abusive language? Sure. But I also don't think that we should be banning social media platforms. I think we have a job as parents, for those of us who are parents, to teach our kids to be responsible for their actions, even virtually. And, that doesn't mean taking away access to these things. It means enforcing behavioral.
It means, educating your child. If you put your children in a bubble and you don't expose them to anything, eventually they're going to leave. And then they're going to be exposed to the entire world and all the shenanigans in the world. And they're going to be like, holy shit. And sometimes these kids go batshit fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And do all of this sort of stuff because they were placed in this little bubble. And
or if you do them the disservice of only allowing them to speak and live in a certain way, I think then again you run the risk of them becoming overly radicalized to these ideas. And it could go totally the wrong way when it comes to too much free speech and not teaching them about responsible speaking and responsible behavior when it comes to respecting other individuals. Our kids have never been told they cannot curse, never been told they can't listen to explicit music. The expectation is always that you understand your environment, your surroundings, and you consider the way that your words affect you and others in your environment.
Yeah, and honestly, most our kids, for the most part, probably curse less than other kids that have, these strict rules. So.
Yeah.
But that's gone a little off subject.
Well, no, I mean, blasphemy still,
Cursing,
again, When you teach your kids the importance of being able to use free speech
and words
and the power of words and responsibility with your words, I think that's right in line with the fact that blasphemy is actually helpful for your environment. It's helpful for your community. The ability to have discourse is healthy.
Yeah. And I love it because, when I'm online and I'm often talking against, a lot of this Christian nationalist movement that's happening in America right now, I'll have almost every single time some Christian will come back and say, now do Islam. And my answer is always the same. Sure. When they start to try and put in laws that take away rights, damn right I will. Mm-hmm. But they're trying to make it sound like we are afraid of speaking out against Islam. And it's like, no, they're not taking our rights away right now. Well, they're not trying to take our rights away. If they get to that point, I sure as fuck will be the one drawing pictures and speaking out against Islam.
And in truth, I mean, there was some instances where I know many of you that listen probably are aware of like Satan Con and those kind of things that happen. I know Shalice was very prominently displayed ripping up a Bible in the opening ceremony, and some of my least favorite individuals in existence decided to latch onto that for some reason. Andrew Taint, as many of you know I like to call him, decided to take that and run with it and say, well, I'd like to see you do that with the Quran, And the fact of the matter is, should extremists decide as Muslims that they want to enforce their religious beliefs here, as radical Christians do, because we're not doing this in a way to intentionally offend the average person who happens to hold a belief that's attached to these items. It's the radical individuals that are out there harming all of us, including their, people who share their faith, because they're turning their faith into a weapon. And when you weaponize things like that, you take that and you turn it into something vile and you just pollute it. And it's what we try to combat by saying, this book is just a book. Your words are just hateful rhetoric that you're hiding behind a religious mask. And, to combat it, we'll often do things that are quite loud in response, because sometimes when you're loud, it brings the attention that people need to say, why are they doing this? What is the impetus behind them getting out there and ripping up a Bible, or, maybe eating a Bible? But when you go out there and you do things that people find shocking, I think it's interesting, because people then want to know why.
Yeah. Why were we doing the hokey pokey out front when they were protesting our Black Mass? Well, because it was fucking fun, and they didn't expect us to do the hokey pokey.
Right, because we're not out there to just be horrible. We believe life is to be lived. I truly think this is my one and only experience at existence, right? So if I can't turn as much of it into something worth laughing about as possible, then I'm doing something wrong. That's not to say I don't have shitty days like everybody else, but I try to find things, even about myself, to laugh at. And blasphemy is just the right to have these free thoughts, these free ideas, to have these stupid conversations about nothing burgers, because it's something that, happens to be on the topic for the day. And if you take away that ability for us to have open conversations and discourse, it will push us backwards into the dark ages and create such an awful situation that what will be the point?
Yeah. I just have to go back to Andrew Tate is such a piece of shit. Him and his brother Tristan Tate. They're just
Taint.
Yeah. Andrew and Tristan Taint.
Yes.
And all their little incel army.
Yeah, and it's so disgusting to me that they lobbed onto the Muslim belief, and so many people,
so many Muslims
lined up behind
them. They're like calling them their G's or whatnot. It's like, what the hell? Where does this?
These people are sex trafficking, abusive dickbags. They are not people to be reviled and don't emulate these people. They're horrible people.
Yeah, I'm just, I get a little confused when I see shit like that. I'm like, okay, hold on.
It's not just dumbasses like the Taints. It's, so many people. Look at some of here we are facing a potential government shutdown, This is very off the topic of blasphemy. But in a way, these idiots, I'll just be honest, I don't care which side of the aisle they're on. If you're over here holding hostage the very important financial means by which Medicare, Medicaid, tons of different important structural infrastructure things that we need as everyday human beings is going to be ripped away, not affecting the dickbags that are sitting there causing these problems, no, there's a problem. And this is the same kind of thing. When you take away the right to have a real discourse, you run into this kind of crap, and you let these people take charge, and this is what you get.
Yeah. I mean, again, you look at most theocracies, the people leaving the theocracies, the people trying to run away from the theocracy, are generally of the same faith of the theocracy, and you have to ask yourself why. Mm-hmm. If a theocracy is such a great thing, if not allowing blasphemy, if putting people to death and torturing people and all that sort of stuff because they said something against your belief, and you put all these religious laws into place, if it's such a wonderful paradise, why are the people of the same faith leaving? Mm-hmm. Think about that. Answer that question yourself. I'm not going to answer it for you. I think it's a pretty simple answer. So yeah, I love blasphemy in the sense that, again, I am a walking billboard of blasphemy when it comes against organized religion, and nobody says shit to me.
That's because you're scary. No, it's not. Sometimes I get conflicted because Satanists do very much have to deal with a lot of crap in public. Things do happen to people. There are violent outbursts, but for the most part, when I go out in public as well, and I'm not a very big individual, I can see why you might be a little intimidating. But all of 5'4", very, I'm not. I don't think someone that you would think of as overly aggressive looking, but I'll go out wearing very satanic or very vulgar things, and I rarely ever have anyone do anything. The worst I've had ever happen is someone ran into me with a shopping cart and tried to pretend it was an accident.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
so-
definitely. I watched.
I'm
That
like,
definitely was not an accident. I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna just.
I really missed an opportunity to fling myself on the ground and wail loudly, and I will not make that mistake again.
Yeah, next time it's gonna be $1 million. Oh, I'm in so much pain.
It's not about lawsuits. It was more of the shock value. You know, I just wanted to put him on the spot. Like, really?
Oh, hell no, we're milking them.
No. But that's just it. Again, blasphemy, right? I'm out there and something someone found offensive, and so their reaction was, I'm going to run into you with a grocery cart.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we live in a, again, we live in a very conservative area. And hey, different topic, but,
Sort
some
of.
Christians would still consider it, a bit about blasphemy. Our LGBTQIA flag that we put up and talked about on our first episode, still up. Not a single complaint letter. I was so expecting complaint letters on that.
You were.
Just because of the neighborhood. And I think we're like, our daughter, when she came to visit, our oldest daughter, she was like, this is the only flag in this entire neighborhood of this.
To be fair, we haven't gone through the entire neighborhood.
Yeah,
I have yet to see one like it. But that's so sad. But it was nice because other people were like, wow, that's so cool. Thanks for putting that up. And
Yeah, every once in a while, it surprises me. I will be walking through the grocery store, and every once in a while, somebody will throw me a Hail Satan.
yeah, when we're wearing
like,
satanic crap, yeah.
I'm like, oh, cool, yeah, Hail Satan.
Yeah, it was funny. We were in like the meat aisle or some crap, and we're walking around, and suddenly someone just shouts, Hail Satan! I was like, holy, what the? Okay,
Yeah.
Did that just happen?
The hell's going on here? All right.
But no, I mean, again, it's not what everyone expects, and there are people that support your right to have your own beliefs, and that's why blasphemy is so damn important, because it's okay to be different. It's okay to hold different values and beliefs, as long as your values and beliefs don't ask for harm of others, don't violate other people's privacy and space and rights, and that's just it. If it's not affecting you, leave people the fuck alone. I mean, here we are, we talked about it a couple episodes ago. There's people that are trying to block people's travel from one state to another because they might be going to get a fucking abortion.
Oh, did you see what Greg Abbott said? Okay, we're going to go off on a little...
Greg ass butt.
So he was talking about the wall that they're building in Texas between Texas and Mexico. And he said, it's on video somewhere. I saw it yesterday. He was like, and we need to continue that wall and build it between Texas and New Mexico.
Oh, good. No, let's just build the whole freaking, we'll just block the whole ass state inside of a big freaking crappy wall. And, everybody can just deal with that. I mean, come on, folks. Wake up. This is exactly what we're talking about. If you can't even accept the fact that people have the right to choose whatever healthcare options they feel are right for their body and lives, and again, I get it. There's a big debate over whether, again, blasphemy, right? Whether or not God gave you this life or blah, 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 fucking blah. If I don't want to gestate a pregnancy, if I don't want to go through 9 months of agony, if I don't want to put myself in a position that I can't afford or risk my other children or risk my life, it's my choice. As a woman, as a reproductive individual who might not be a woman, anyone that has the ability to get pregnant has the right to decide whether or not they want to be pregnant. And I'm sorry, I don't have to stop having sex to make you feel better about your sad life. I don't have to restrict myself even if I'm being responsible. Sometimes you still end up pregnant. And I mean, I got pregnant twice on birth control. The fact of the matter is you can only do so much. And it's just ridiculous. I don't care what you eat. I don't care what you wear. I don't care how you have sex, if you have sex. Leave me the hell alone. And I will leave you the hell alone.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, as we're starting to now talk about putting up walls between states.
Yeah, again, constitutional right to free travel. I don't know what these people are thinking.
I guess Texas is going to kind of become like
have you read the
Berlin Wall?
I would encourage anyone that hasn't ever looked at Texas's GOP plat to understand their platform. They put one out like every session. It's horrible. Yeah. It's horrible. It wants to take away women's rights, women's property rights, children's rights. I mean, we live in a state where kids are still being paddled with the condoning word of the Bible to an extent that, I mean, corporal punishment is such a problem here. And again, blasphemy, right? These people are using the damn Bible to say they have the right to hit children in a way to educate them.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
I mean, if that doesn't piss people off when it comes to blasphemous crap, I mean, I don't know what will. There is no right for you to put your hands on somebody else because you think it's something that your God will condone.
Yeah. So, yeah, but the Texas GOP's run by Dominionists. So, I mean, that's just part of what you have to understand when you look at the stupid shit that Texas tries to put into place.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, gladly walk around. Gladly, I'm very happy to be a billboard for blasphemy. Celebrate blasphemy.
Yeah, celebrate yourselves. Be who you are. Be proud of who you are. And don't let other people's crappy opinions of what you should or shouldn't be dictate how you live your life. You'll waste so much of your life if you let yourself fall into that. If people are going to accept you or not is out of your hands. You just be who you are. I would rather be hated by like hundreds of people and liked by 5 because those 5 people like me for exactly who I am. And that's not a waste of my time, and it's not a waste of yours.
Yep. So I think with that note, we can say Happy Blasphemy Day.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan, and enjoy.